Hello everyone, this is your subject Practical Research 1, an applied subject for all senior high school students. Our lesson for today is about importance of research in daily life, the definition, qualities of good research, and its characteristics. So bakit nga ba tayo nagre-research? Mahalaga ba ito sa ating buhay? What are the current trending research that we use today? So, malalaman natin yan. The ultimate goal of research is to improve life. So, that is the main idea of research. Bakit ba tayo nagre-research? To improve our life. Hindi para sirain ang ating buhay, but to improve it. So, katulad na lamang ng ginawa noong unang panahon. The greatest research or the greatest discovery is fire. Alam niyo ba yon? Because of the discovery of fire, we innovated things from melting metals, cooking our food, and heating ourselves. So in education, an example of research innovation in education is the green board, the board. From green board, nalaman nilang mas maganda sa mata ang blackboard. Then, from the conveniency of pen, naging whiteboard ang ating board. So, because of the research that inhalation of chalk dust affects our lungs, from chalk, naging pen. Okay. That's the result of research. In transportation, from using animals in transportation, we use vehicles na. So that is a product of research. In communication, from using the landline or from using the pen and paper method of communicating from people around the world, because of research, they discovered landline and cell phones. In mass media, from printed media, which is newspapers, naging broadcast media. Broadcast media includes television and radio. From that, naging online media. Online media includes social media using the internet. So those are the products of research, simple products of research. So from those given examples, na-improve ba ang ating buhay? Yes, di ba? So let us first define research. So according to Good, research is a careful, critical, disciplined inquiry, varying in techniques and method according to the nature and conditions of the problem identified, directed toward the clarification or resolution or both of a problem. So ang research daw ay ang maingat na pag-a-analyze ng isang problema and pagbibigay ng solusyon sa problemang iyon. It has careful, critical, and disciplinary inquiry. Or you use critical, disciplinary inquiry in solving a certain problem. According to Aquino, research is a systematic search for pertinent information on a specific topic or problem. Sabi naman ni Aquino, ang research daw ay ang paghahanap ng mga importanteng information para ma-solve ang isang problema. According to Trees and Trees, research is an attempt to gain solution to problems. Paghahanap daw ng solusyon sa problema. From those definitions, pare-pareho lang ang pinipinpoint nila, that research solves problem. Because if you solve the problem, it involves the life of the people. Diba? So the recent innovation or research is the COVID-19 vaccine, diba? Ni-research ba nila ang vaccine? Yes. Bakit nila ni-research ang vaccine? To solve the problem of COVID virus. Dahil sa vaccine, Nag-improve ba ang ating buhay? Yes. The economic of other country and our country opened and is currently regaining, di ba? Because of the vaccine, bumabalik na tayo sa dati. So, that is an example of product of research. In practical research 1, you're going to make your own research paper. So sometimes research paper are called term paper, investigative paper, documented paper, library paper, or reading report. Depende sa content ng research paper mo. What are the qualities of a good research? This is according to researchpro.com. So the purpose of a research study or of a research should be clearly defined and common concepts are used. The research procedures used should be described in sufficient details to permit another researcher to repeat the research for further advancement, keeping the continuity of what has already been attained. So, ang purpose daw ng research mo ay kailangang clearly defined or clearly na-state para malaman mo yung direction ng gagawin mong research. Kaya, dapat ang researcher ay alam talaga kung ano ang kanyang nire-research, hindi yung basta may magawang research lang, di ba? You should identify the purpose of your research. Ano ba talaga ang gusto mong mangyari? Another, the research procedure should be described in sufficient details. Ang research ay isang detalyadong papel. Kailangang sabihin mo ng malinaw ang mga details na kailangan mong banggitin sa iyong research paper para maging clear iyon sa mga mambabasa, readers, and clear yon sa further study na gagawin ng research mo. Kung may magko-continue ng research mo. Dahil kapag ang research mo ay magulo, babasahin ba yun ng reader? Di ba hindi? Magiging interesado ba silang i-continue ang iyong research? Di ba hindi? So a research should be well-defined and the procedure should be detailed. The procedural design of the research should be carefully planned to yield results that are as objective as possible. So, ang research design mo dapat ay malinaw kung ano ang gusto mong mangyari. Carefully planned to yield results. Yun ang meaning nun. The researcher should report with complete frankness, flaws in procedural ideas or design, and estimate their effect upon the finding. So, kung ano man ang lumabas sa research mo, dapat yun ang i-present mo sa iyong research paper. Hindi dahil taliwas ang result sa gusto mong mangyari, hindi mo na ilalabas yung result ng research mo. That is a form of bias. So, you should be true to your research. The analysis of data should be sufficiently adequate to reveal its significance, and the methods of analysis should be appropriate. The validity and reliability of the data should be checked carefully. So, nag-float ka na ng questionnaire mo and nakuha mo na yung response nila. Kailangan mo nang i-analyze ang iyong data, di ba? So, you will do that later on. Kapag nakuha mo na yung data from your respondents, kailangang magkaroon ka ng treatment, specific treatment to interpret those data. Kapag iba ang treatment na ginawa mo, magkakaroon ng different interpretation ang data na nag-gather mo. So you need to know the specific treatment you will use in analyzing your data to come up with a valid result. Conclusions should be confined to those justified by the data of the research and limited to those of which the data provide an adequate bias or basis. So, ang conclusion mo dapat ay konektado siya sa gathered data mo. And doon lang dapat siya mag-focus. Hindi yung conclusion mo ay sinasakop na niya yung ibang areas of research na hindi naman kabilang sa nire-research mo. So your conclusion should only stick to the result of your research. Greater confidence in research is warranted if the researcher is experienced, has a good reputation in research, and is a person of integrity. So, mas maganda ang isang research kapag mas gamay na ng researcher ang paggawa ng research and hindi bias ang researcher sa results of the study. So, ano naman ang characteristics of a good research? Paano mo masasabing good ang isang research? Kapag nagbabasa ka ng isang research paper, paano mo i-assess kung good research yon or hindi? First is, dapat systematic siya. What is systematic? Research is structured such that the researcher follows certain procedures. It is conducted with a set of rules in mind. The researcher conforms to convention that go with the system. So, ang isang good research ay sinusunod niya yung certain procedures ng isang research. Paano kapag ang isang research na binabasa mo ay ang chapter 1 niya ay methodology agad? Is that systematic? No, because the chapter 1 includes the background of the study, introduction and background of the study. So, hindi na siya systematic. So, ang isang good research ay sinusunod niya ang structure of research paper. Comprehensive. A researcher has to cover all aspects of the investigation before he arrives at a conclusion. Researcher is not a hit and miss thing, such that a researcher has to investigate thoroughly to ascertain the result of his study. So, ang isang good research ay dapat naiintindihan mo from start to finish. Hindi yung sa una pa lang nagugulhan ka na and hindi mo na maintindihan yung binabanggit ng research. So kapag hindi mo na naintindihan sa chapter 1 pa lang ang gustong ipinpoint ng research na yon, that is not a good research. Objective. Research is characterized by absence of bias or prejudice on the part of the researcher, who must be open-minded and even-handed. He treats all the subjects fairly. So dapat nakafocus ang research mo sa the purpose of your study. Hindi siya bias in a term of may pinapanigan. So hindi dapat ganon. Kung ano ang naging result ng study mo, yun dapat ang nasa research. It is not being manipulated in a sense that the community will accept it. Halimbawa, if you conducted a research about for example, if you plan to write a research about the effect of COVID-19, you will put there na the vaccine is effective. Even though the result of the study says that the vaccine is not good for the health, ang nilabas mo ay the vaccine is good for the health. Just because the community will accept it. Kasi kapag ang nilabas mo is the vaccine is not good, the community will reject the idea of it, di ba? There will be controversy. So, hindi ka na naging objective sa research mo. May pinapanigan ka na. Replicate. A research study done by one individual can be replicated or done again by him, by another individual, or by a team of individuals. So, dapat ang isang good research ay it can be replicated by other researcher. Maiko-continue siya into other variable or into other local. Ganun. Empirical. Every research must deal with real-life situations. Thus, a researcher, particularly one doing a qualitative research, concerns himself with the lived experience of individuals, for example, the marginalized. So empirical meaning real-life situation. So ang isang good research ay it deals with real-life situation. Makatotohanan siya, hindi lang siya imagination. Halimbawa, kung ang isang research about COVID-19 is done 2016, empirical ba siya? Hindi. Kasi wala namang COVID-19 noong 2016. Unlike now, if you're going to make a research about COVID-19, that is empirical because it is actually happening right now. Okay? Logical. A research is based on the principles of logical reasoning. Guided by these rules in logic, he formulates his arguments and proves his points without his resorting to fallacious statements. So ang isang good research ay may sense, logical. Hindi lang siya nagbe-base sa mga chismis, ganon. Logical meaning your research is based from a gathered data, ganon. Hindi lang siya isang haka-haka. Valid. A researcher considers validity and reliability in the formulation of conclusion. A good research uses the gathered data in interpreting or in analyzing data. Hindi yung gumagawa siya ng sariling data. So, a good research is valid, should be valid. Verifiable. A research is verifiable if other researchers can check on the accuracy of the results of his investigation. The verifiability of a research is associated with its replicability. So, magkakakonect lang yung valid, verifiable, and replicability. Kapag sinunod mo yung gathered data mo, you analyze it correctly with correct treatment, that is a good research. Critical. A research work is a product of critical thinking and sound judgment. A researcher uses these two throughout the entire research process, particularly in data collection and analysis. So a good research is critical because we use statistical treatments to analyze data. Hindi lang siya basta ginather mo, nilagay mo na siya sa papel. You interpret the responses of the respondents and you analyze it with the statistical treatment and you interpreted. Now we're done with the characteristics of good research. Ano naman ang characteristics of a good research work? This is a guide to every researcher. So there is an acronym for research work. R for resolute, essential, statistically sound, empirical, accurate, results-oriented, critical, hypothesis-based, well done, objective, restricted, knowledge-laden, and systematic. What do we mean by resolute? A research work must be marked by courage and firm determination on the part of the researcher to adequately complete his work. So, ang isang good research work ay dapat nagbumula sa researcher. Dapat nandoon ang kanyang willingness to complete the research. That is called resolute. Essential. It must be significant not only to the researcher, but also and more importantly to the readers of his work. Dapat may essence. Statistically sound. It must present numerical data that are correct. This is particularly true of quantitative research. Empirical, as I've said a while ago, should be real-life situation. It must be based on the researcher's experiences, whether direct or vicarious. Accurate. It must be devoid of error in grammar, mechanics, facts, organization, and the like. Results-oriented. It must produce the desired effects which the researcher initially has in mind prior to the conduct of research. So, diba, if you conduct a research, you made up in your mind or you anticipated the result of your study. So, that is a result-oriented. May naisip ka ng result ng study mo. Hypothesis-based, it must be based on scientific guess, like the alternative and the null hypothesis. So we will know what is hypothesis later on. Well done. It must not be haphazardly or hastily done. So dapat ang isang good research work ay natapos siya from chapter 1 to chapter 5. Objective. It must be devoid of bias, prejudice, and subjectiveness. As I have said a while ago, dapat hindi bias ang isang researcher, dapat goal-oriented siya, result-oriented. Restricted. It must be limited in scope. So kung ano lang ang nasa scope and delimitation mo, yun lang ang included sa research mo. Knowledge-laden. It must be loaded with information that are or that the readers need. Systematic. It must be done and presented in an orderly manner. So that's it. That's the chapter 1 of Practical Research 1.